Welcome to Franchise Focus. Today we are featuring Mister Sparky, one of the top residential electrical service brands inside Authority Brands. They focus on fast response times, clear pricing, and safety. The brand has a strong name recognition, proven service model, and national support for marketing, scheduling, training, and recruiting. It's a mature brand in a category with steady demand. Joining me is Taylor Meyer. She works in franchise development for Mister Sparky and helps candidates understand the model, the support structure, and what the brand looks for in new owners. She brings a clear view of how the system grows, where the opportunities are, and what matters most for incoming franchisees. So, welcome, Taylor. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me. I'm so glad to be here.
Give us a little background about yourself and how you entered into the world of franchising and authority brands and all that good stuff.
Absolutely. Well, I grew up in a family of entrepreneurs. So my family has a small business. I watched that grow and what it took to get it to that point to the where it is today. And it really inspired my desire to learn more about the realm of entrepreneurship. So I actually got my degree in entrepreneurship and new venture management from the University of Oklahoma, which isn't something that you hear very often. And then I dove headfirst in the world of franchising. I thought it was such a cool place to be in. And I've always felt that franchising creates such a unique environment for people to be able to realize their dreams of small business ownership. So I've been in the franchise development space for the last 5 years. My husband and I also purchased, scaled, and successfully exited a franchise. And it's been a wild but really fulfilling ride along the way.
Yeah,
I've been the developer for Mister Sparky Electric since May of 2025, and I've been with the Authority brands for 2 years now.
that's fantastic. So, give us, this is probably an obvious question, but, one big misperception or misconception that people have about the electrical space and franchising.
That's a great one. I would say probably the largest and most frequent misconception that I hear on a daily basis is that most people have no business owning an electrical services franchise if they don't have any prior industry experience
Mhm.
or if they don't hold an electrical license themselves. While we work with many individuals who are seasoned trades professionals, it's not a requirement to enter into this industry to be successful at this brand. We help new franchise owners, regardless of their background, meet state specific licensing requirements. So don't get me wrong, there needs to be a license affiliated with the business,
Yeah.
but the franchise owner themselves do not need to be that license holder. And in fact, oftentimes a lot of what they're doing today, and when I say they, I typically mean corporate refugees, people with backgrounds in operations, management, logistics. A lot of what they're doing today translates very well into what they're going to be doing every day as a Mr. Sparky Electric franchise owner. So I would say that's probably the largest misconception. And I talk candidates through exactly how it all works on a daily basis.
Oh, that's fantastic. And what often surprises owners about this trade or this business opportunity in terms of when they're, the electrical space? Is there something that you think stands out?
I think a lot of times people can be surprised about, how quickly this business can grow and how much need there really is. And I
Yeah.
think that maybe stems from just, so much new development happening across the country and so many people living in newer homes that haven't had any electrical needs significantly since they moved in.
Hmm.
People who say, "I've never called an electrician in my life as a homeowner," and I'll ask how old their home is, and they'll say, "My home's 7 years old," and I'll say, "Well, that's probably why." But when you really start to take a peek behind the curtain in the industry, you'll quickly realize that the aging home stock in this country really bodes well for the demand in this
Okay.
industry. When you have areas that have homes that are 20, 30, 40, 50 years old, that creates such significant and immediate demand for the safety of homeowners every day. And so that's when it really starts to get interesting. When you start to think about those panel change outs, the different services that franchise owners can then have their teams provide. But also, when you start to think about the other end of the spectrum, the market expansion that the electrical trade is experiencing with new technologies coming in, like
All right.
vehicles and those charging stations being installed in people's homes, smart home upgrades, right? Our world is being electrified, and every aspect of our lives requires these kinds of services. So I think when people really start to, like I said, peek behind the curtain,
Yeah.
there's a lot more opportunity than maybe they see at face value, which becomes really exciting.
No, that's a great point, and I need to remind people that when I'm talking to them because yeah, with the growing demand of so much like electrical needs for sure. So we know you talked a bit about you walk the owners through what is a typical day. I would say you would say for an owner maybe in year one versus two, three, and on.
Yeah. So most franchise owners do start full time in the business, but that
Hmm.
doesn't mean that they're sitting in the red truck holding the screwdriver. Even if they had 20 years of experience as a master electrician, I don't want them sitting in the truck. Their
Right.
time is better focused spent working on the business, even in a full time capacity rather than in the business. So and this is where what I mentioned previously about what people are doing today translating really well into this business. A full time owner operator in the beginning is focused on management, logistics, and operations. And so, to get more specific into that, in the beginning, in year one, to run a really lean operation, they're taking the reins of dispatching, recruitment, and retention of their guys,
Okay.
customer service, obviously the financials of the business and moving the business forward, managing the team of electricians each day, making sure they know where they're going, they know what's on the schedule, leading maybe team trainings on a weekly basis and grassroots marketing. Those are
Okay.
going to be your low cost or no cost marketing efforts that can really help propel the business forward quickly. So that's what I would say from a high level. The first year is going to entail from a franchise owner's responsibilities
Hmm.
there. As the business continues to grow and scale, they'll start to delegate some of those or some of those responsibilities over time. So, bringing on customer service staff or call takers for dispatching of electricians. Maybe they'll bring on a warehouse or an inventory manager to make sure that everything is organized and that materials are on site in a timely manner. Maybe they will promote one of their guys to a senior or lead technician role that can take on more of that team training or more of that management. So they'll slowly pull themselves kind of higher level as the business grows. And in that way, I would absolutely call Mr. Sparky an earned absentee model, where if we look towards the guys who are now 10, 15, sometimes nearing 20 years of tenure, given we've been franchising since 2006, you'll see guys that have created such structure in their businesses that they've removed themselves two times from the day to day. I think really
Wow.
great example of this have a franchise owner. He's a great guy. Stay in close connection with him. His name's George Saldana. He's in San Antonio, Texas. He's been with Mister Sparky Electric since 2008.
Wow.
He is that guy that he runs a tight ship. It's systems, it's processes, it's SOPs. And he's got a management bench of about 5 or 6 managers now overseeing the day to day of his different territories. And then his daughter and son in law manage those managers. And then it gets to George. So, George works in his business about 1 day a week at this point, and we're so thankful that with that spare time, he does give back a ton to the broader
Yeah.
franchise network. But I think that's such a stellar example of what this business can become over time when you follow the business model and are true to those systems, processes, and SOPs, as George likes to call them.
That's amazing. Is there a operational mistake maybe that owners make in that first year that would be good to avoid?
Yes. I think there's a lot of, in any business you get into, a lot of potential hurdles or speed bumps where if you're not aware of them can slow down growth. And I think it looks different for the two different profiles of franchise owners we see. So on one end of the spectrum, you have the seasoned electrician that maybe hasn't owned a business before.
Hmm.
We can see those individuals really struggle to pull themselves out of the truck,
Right.
whether it be because they enjoy it or because they, feel like they want to keep that control of the customer experience in that way, or for whatever reason it may be. But that
Right.
can slow down growth because if you are in the truck, then who's running the actual business side? And then
Right.
on the other end of the spectrum, you have the green entrepreneur, corporate refugee, whomever it may be that has no prior electrical experience. And there's going to be a learning curve there. My job
Hmm.
is to help them navigate that, but it does present a different set of challenges. Wanting to make sure you feel comfortable in managing the team of electricians, you earn their trust and respect when they ask you about how long they have to complete a service, not necessarily knowing the answer. And again, we coach them through all these things, but that learning curve can feel a little tricky if, aren't necessarily aware of what to expect coming in.
Right.
I would say maybe the biggest glaring hurdle that I always like people to be aware of is that this is a big business and it does require that full time effort from
Yeah.
the franchise owner. while they could start it in a part-time capacity, it will slow down that ramp up. It will slow
Hmm.
down their ability to meet those revenue milestones that they have. They'll need to have a full-time general manager. When you're 1 foot in and 1 foot out, how quickly can you come down that learning curve as a new owner? And it does increase, operating expenses, etc. So that's where
Right.
if we always like to make sure people have proper expectations coming into it. It's a grind, but with high efforts come high rewards. And
Mm.
looking at the performance of our franchise owners, it really speaks to that.
That's fantastic. And I know you guys have a whole plethora of marketing as well as recruitment, et cetera. But how do top performing owners attract and keep electricians?
Great question. So, one partnership that we're really proud of that has been a true workhorse for finding great talent for our franchise owners is our Recruit Military partnership. That's something that our Vice President of Operations, Dan Mock, spearheaded. And
Hmm.
it's that he holds very near and dear to his heart as a military veteran. But working with servicemen and women who have these skill sets that are looking for their first civilian careers after leaving the military, this is a talent pool that holds themselves to the highest standard. They're incredibly team oriented. And so having access to that pool of applicants is so beneficial for our franchise owners. And it's more than just access to those applicants. We get thousands of applications from Recruit Military annually across
Yeah.
the country. But that partnership also extends to the in person. So if franchise owners have a military base nearby in their territories, they get access to those career fairs for free. In fact, we'll even send out all the materials they need to attend: the tablecloths, the banners, a little light bulb, ascot if they want to stick their kids in that.
Yeah.
Make it fun, make it family oriented. That attendance at that career fair would cost the typical business owner $2,400 per event to attend. And our
Oh, wow.
franchise owners can attend for free. So that's one of our largest partnerships from a recruitment perspective. We also have software platforms that can streamline a lot of the minutia. So these different tactics are great for bringing in those journeymen, those seasoned electricians that are going to create the foundation for their businesses. And then top franchise owners make relationships with trade schools, high schools, vocational schools to create a pipeline of apprentices, which
Right.
allows them to really mold them into the kind of employee that they're looking for and builds a lot of loyalty for long term retention when an apprentice can earn their journeyman's license and working for their business. So I would say those are probably the two predominant. 18 people know 18 players. So when you find those solid first few electricians,
Yeah.
working those networks again to tap into people they may know. And then I would say the way that we recommend franchise owners go about compensating their electricians really breeds that longevity in that relationship.
Oh, wonderful.
When it comes to the recommended compensation strategy, it's almost like a draw, if you will. So either the electrician earns their hourly wages, which they are familiar with, they've received in this industry, or they have the opportunity to earn uncapped commission. So a percentage commission on the revenue of
Hmm.
that service or their hourly, whichever is greater. So in a 2 week pay period, if their commissions were $4,000, the hourly was three, they would get the four, which really allows them
Oh,
to take their earnings into their own hands. And for a franchise owner, keeps labor costs proportionate to revenue
yeah.
to help from that disproportionately exceeding. So that's one way we can help from a margins perspective. It also incentivizes that electricians do quality and efficient work, as opposed to hourly, which is industry standard, which incentivizes electricians to ride the clock per se. Drive up that hourly rate. So in
Hmm.
recommending franchise owners move to this what we call new compensation strategy, we have franchise owners that have electricians working in their shops that are making six figures. Franchise owners can get into, the specific numbers of how high this can get. But we have franchise owners that have electricians making 100,000, 200,000 plus just as an electrician in these
Awesome.
businesses, which is, I mean, that's life-changing opportunity.
Yeah.
That is a
Yeah.
really meaningful career opportunity in local communities. And what you'll hear many franchise owners say is that they have such a heart for bringing honor to the trades and reigniting young people into entering into this space. And when you have opportunity like that entering into local marketplaces, it really does just that.
Yeah. No, that's amazing, and that brings up a point, like, so your technicians, the people on the truck, they're ultimately kinda doing the sales
Yeah.
for you at the end of the day with the customer. I mean, their appointment's been booked, they're doing the sales, so having this kinda compensation model seems to make a lot of sense to me. That's fantastic, and it's a win-win for them. They're not getting penalized, they're only getting rewarded.
Right. And to quote another franchise owner, his name's Rick Spooner. He's been with Mister Sparky for quite some time, but 3 years as a franchise owner. He famously says that everybody needs to win. The customer
Yeah.
needs to win, which means
Yeah.
the electrician's not going to win that job if they overprice it, right? So the
Yep.
customer has to win, the electrician has to win, and the franchise owner has to win. And when all three things are true, the rest will take care of itself.
That's fantastic. That's really great. So in terms of the owner, do they do networking and other work to try to create the commercial side of business, or how does that?
So I would say this definitely skews predominantly residential, and I would even argue maybe 95%
Okay.
residential electrical services. That's where franchise owners will see the healthiest profit margins. That's where, we shine in same day service,
Mhm.
and that's where it's going to be more quick to cash flow. Most
Gotcha.
franchise owners won't touch the commercial side, especially new construction, because it just brings complexities, constricted margins, and you essentially become a bill collector at that point. But it sounds great. It sounds sexy. You got $1 million
Yeah.
in accounts receivable, but that's not cash in the bank.
Right.
So when we say commercial, I would say it's very light commercial. Think apartment complexes, strip malls, things like that, but nothing too crazy outside from there.
Right.
To answer
Refer relationships though? Like, are
yes,
there opportunity?
relationships. To get back to your original question,
Yeah.
grassroots marketing is, of course, so important in this business as it is in any. I mentioned it previously. It's your local
Yeah, you did.
cost efforts. So, creating relationships with other trades professionals, other trades businesses, real estate agents are a great referral source as people are moving into new properties. Their older homes, maybe looking to renovate, need electrical work
Mhm.
done, maybe even prior to closing. But we have franchise owners that even take it a step further. They join BNI, Chamber of Commerce, trade shows, home shows. I have a franchise owner that would show up at craft shows, right? Because that's where her decision maker would be, right? A lot of times it's the
That's right.
woman in the house that is who's making these decisions on services that need to be done and who's also going to be present when the electrician shows up. So she was at craft shows and it was really successful for her. So getting
I
out into the community is what's going to drive a lot of familiarity. It's going to breed trust, establish a reputation for professionalism. So any opportunity to get out into the community and to network is going to be beneficial to the business.
Are there tips, or I'm sure you guys do training in terms of helping the owner who doesn't have any prior electrical experience to manage these employees so they respect that, or they don't try to, okay, he doesn't know anything about, or she doesn't know anything about electrical, so I'm on my own, or I can do what I want. How do you work through that?
Yeah, those situations are going to arise naturally as your team and you as a new franchise owner without experience start to, kind of suss each other out a little bit, right? Start to see what
Mhm.
that relationship's going to look like. But that's where the operations manual comes into place. All of the training that they've gone through comes into place. I mean, we've been franchising for 20 years, we've been operating for 30. So we've seen everything under the sun. But also, I'd say more importantly, there's two key relationships in the first year of a franchise owner. That's with their franchise business coach that can help them navigate these situations as they arise and be proactive about that, saying, hey, this is
Mhm.
what you're likely going to experience at some point in time as you enter into this new industry and this trade. So let's talk through how you're going to navigate that. But the second is actually a new relationship or a new program that we've been creating. One of our franchise business coaches actually spearheaded this out of just, seeing new owners come in without that industry experience and listening to what they feel like they need to confidently operate. And that's a mentorship relationship amongst our top performing or longest tenured franchise owners with anybody new coming through training,
Wow.
setting them
Wow.
up to each other, to have that close personal relationship of someone who was in their shoes not too long ago, who navigated those same challenges. And I mean, they're meeting on frequent, sometimes weekly, twice weekly basis to talk through challenges, to get
Yeah.
into your books, to talk about pricing, anything that they may need. And I think that really speaks to what this network and what the culture of our franchise owners is really about.
Hmm. Yeah.
People moving through validation and speaking to owners will hear it time and time again. We all rise by lifting others. It only benefits all other Mister Sparky franchise owners when new guys come in, new gals come in and see success.
Yeah.
And so when you have top performers and your longest tenured owners taking oftentimes multiple new owners under their wings, I think that
Wow.
that's the highest value in the network.
100%. You cannot underestimate that. That is a clear differentiator with you guys. That's huge because that could make or break how quickly someone can be successful, how comfortable they can get with it. Yeah, no, that's really impressive. I would think that would grab a lot more people. And you guys create the marketing, the local marketing for your franchisees in terms of digital marketing or
Yeah, it's an omni-channel approach. And when we say we create the marketing, we help and collaborate with the franchise owner to create a custom strategy for their marketplace.
okay.
We'll lean on our 20 years of intellectual capital and helping fellow entrepreneurs see success in this business model in markets similar to theirs, or we'll lean on our sister brands, Benjamin Franklin Plumbing, 1 Hour Heating and Air, if there's a location in their market to understand what they're doing from a marketing perspective, what's getting people to call and click.
Perfect.
So we take that data to create a strategic approach, and it's going to be a mix of digital, traditional, and the grassroots efforts we've already talked about. So there's going to be different nuances for different parts of the country. My franchise owner in Augusta, Georgia, sees a lot of success with radio ads and radio commercials. It's really specific to Augusta. I don't know why. But when you go to Tulsa, for example, where I'm located, our second largest Mister Sparky owns the Tulsa Metro. There are billboards littered up and down 169. I mean, you can't go too far without seeing a Mister Sparky billboard, but it's what
Yeah.
works. And so some
Yeah.
of these more nuanced traditional tactics will lean on that data to help give recommendations of, hey, we've seen this to be successful in this market or in a market similar to yours, and we recommend that you maybe put focus or funds in that direction.
Wow. I see a lot of them in my area. It's funny. In terms of things that you think are important for a potential franchise owner as they're evaluating the system, what should they be asking? What should they be looking for to see if it's a fit for them and they're a fit for you?
I think oftentimes potential franchise owners, when they're evaluating Mister Sparky Electric or any of our trades businesses, if they're coming without a background in the trade, can really get stuck in the weeds of trying to understand the tiniest details about the
Mhm.
business, the industry, because they feel like that will make it feel more familiar to them. But I think it maybe does the opposite. It creates a lot of confusion. It creates tunnel vision. You can't see the trees from the forest. And so instead encourage, and I share, a lot of the details of exactly how this business operates, exactly what the services are. That's going to come in training. So I think more so you have to understand, what does my day to day look like? How does that evolve? And who is helping me come down the
Yeah.
learning curve? Because what breeds familiarity is understanding what you're doing now. Is that going to translate to what I'm going to be doing? And if so, at that point, it just becomes a conversation of different vernacular, different industry trends, and all that we can teach. So if you can manage people, if you can create a good team culture, if you can focus on the operations or the logistics of the business, if that makes sense in your mind, if you feel strongly about your ability to create long-term strategy for the direction of your business, if you're a forward planner, right? Those things translate really well, and that's what creates familiarity. And then on the other end, understanding who is supporting you, I would say that's almost as important, if not equally as important, as to understanding the business model. And that's the whole
Yeah.
reason why you franchise, right? It's
Right.
not just for the business model, it's for the people who are supporting you, right? Who are the industry experts, who have
Yeah.
seen this 100 different ways, who know exactly what breeds success and what may create pitfalls or hurdles and how to avoid them. So I think, getting to those meet your team days, meeting the operations team, meeting the leadership team, and understanding the direction they're taking this business, and really, treating that as, the mutual evaluation that it should be, and saying, do I feel like these people have my best interest or the franchise owner's best interest in mind? And
Right.
think of me when they make decisions. I'd say, that's something that's often overlooked when people are evaluating maybe arguably any franchise, but particularly when
Right.
they're coming into the trades, they get so focused on the day-to-day tactical that they
Right.
don't think about the longer term or the broader vision.
Right. No, no, that's boy, did you hit the nail on the head. That is so, so true. And it's just trying to help them sit back and look at that to where they really want to be. To and I think fear comes into that and it plays a little bit of that.
100%. I
Yeah, yeah,
completely agree.
yeah. Any fun success stories for new owners, older owners, or whatnot that you have?
Yeah, I have to be careful, so I can stick to the item 19s. I think this business is a lot bigger than what people think it is, and it often is surprising when we do get into the FDD, even prior to speaking with franchise owners who can provide more of that color that they're looking for.
Right.
But the average single territory with Mister Sparky last year, so just one franchise unit, one location, generated about 1.284 million in revenue last year. Just one location.
One
So if you
location.
extrapolate that forward, what does that mean for those who have multiple? The average franchise owner, as many do have multiple territories, did about 3.8 million last year. That's just average. Now,
That's
for
the average, right?
top performers, my top 25% of franchise owners generated 11.3 million last year. And the highest grossing franchisee, who has 31 locations across Florida, Georgia, and Alabama, topped 68 million last year alone. This is a big business. Earlier, when I said high efforts in the beginning equal
Yes.
high rewards, that's what you get when you enter into an essential recession resistant trade that can't be replaced by AI. It breeds a lot of security, stability, and can help entrepreneurs tap into a higher level of wealth without ever picking up a tool themselves.
That is fantastic. Thank you so much, Taylor, for just a great overview and details of a very successful franchise. I appreciate that. People should be
Absolutely.
very excited to learn more. If this episode resonates with you, head to the link below. I'd love to connect and talk more about it. Thanks again, Taylor. You take care.
Thank you, Laura.